Here come the Baylor Bears, the reigning NCATA champions in acro and tumbling. They still have the #1 national ranking, but tonight they're in the Ducks house, Matthew Knight Arena, #2 Oregon, looking for a bit of revenge. Well, in this Oregon and Eugene community, they have already embraced this fast-growing sport of acro and tumbling. And as we mentioned, the first event, compulsories. And so to help us get to know it a little bit better, we've recruited the student athletes who know their sport the best.
The first event is compulsories. This event consists of 4 heats that all have a predetermined set of skills and a start value of 10.
They are acros, pyramids, tosses, and tumbling. The judges focus on execution, synchronization, and technique.
Go Ducks!
With Samantha Peshek, JB Long, so glad you're with us for this debut telecast of acro and tumbling. So the NCATA developed this compulsory event to start meets to ensure that all teams, Sam, are training the same basics through proper progression of technique.
Definitely. It's amazing to me that they recruit athletes from so many different backgrounds, and when we were speaking to both of the head coaches, they were talking about the importance of fundamentals, and they actually take a few months to teach the sport and educate them before even moving forward. And so the compulsory is a great event to showcase how great they did in this segment of training.
Within this first event, there are 4 heats, acro first, then pyramid, toss, and tumbling heats. These truly are the building blocks for the sport of acro and tumbling that we'll see throughout the next 2 hours.
The first heat in compulsory is acro, like the girls mentioned, and there'll be 8 athletes competing with an option of 1 counter. We see the girl in the middle, known as the counter. Looking for amplitude, pretty synchronized throughout. There was one flip where the girl on the left finished a little bit before the girl on the right, which will be a deduction. But in terms of body line and shapes in the air, they were on point.
We'll get the scores for all 4 heats at the end of the strength for the Ducks. They've been scoring extremely well in the compulsories.
The great thing, too, like we mentioned, is that both teams will start from a 10.0. The question will be, can they do this better than the Baylor Bears? And those twists down were all the way around, as opposed to Baylor, they didn't quite get their twists all the way around.
Judging by their reaction and that of their home crowd, they loved their first.
Increase the awareness and just educate the public in general, because it just gives females another opportunity to compete in college athletics.
Wrapping up the compulsory pyramid heat, please welcome the Oregon.
There's
Shayla Kelly, a junior. She's the oldest of Shannon Kelly and Mary Lou's 4 daughters. Her father, Shannon, playing quarterback at Texas. The Ducks ready for their compulsory pyramid heats.
Their acro heat looks pretty clean. Let's see if they can keep up the momentum.
Taylor Galvin, a sophomore, #20, leads this group.
That looks strong for Oregon as well.
It was heat 2 of 4. The pyramid complete, the toss will be next. Mentioned that this is a strength, the compulsories for Oregon. They have a higher season average than does Baylor, 38.06 out of a possible 40. And they also have a higher top score on the season, a 39.25 in compulsories. That was against Gannon and King.
Next up is heat 3, compulsory toss. A few of the things the judges will be looking for is stretch and extension. The top athlete should extend the body to a complete straight position prior to initiating the tuck. That looks pretty stretched to me. Judges also looking for insufficient stretch and extension before they land as well. So both in the air and before they land. They have a very nice set, good positions in the air. I'd say Baylor should be pretty happy with that heat.
Kira Nolan among those on top for Baylor in that heat. Ducks ready to answer. Third of 4 heats here in event number 1, the compulsories.
Galvin, Alexis Cross, Caitlin Corella, Taylor Keating, Caitlin Michaud, and Sydney Walton.
Alexis Cross, a sophomore, 13 on your right. Cassie Jackson, her freshman counterpart, the top on the left.
The group on the left finished a tad bit, a smidge before the group on the right. That will be a small deduction. But again, this is minuscule. Every 10th counts, considering the start values from these teams are so close.
So one more compulsory remaining, it's tumbling, and our set of 3 officials want to see sufficient height and no movement on the landing. Now each season, a team in acro and tumbling competes in 6 to 8 meets, sometimes in duels, sometimes tries. These programs have already met once this season and figured to contend again for the NCATA Championships, April 16th through 19th. Our first look at tumbling.
Chest a little low from a few of the girls. I'd like to see them get their arms and their chest up a little bit higher. Small movement in the feet. Very synchronized. The judges will appreciate that. We're going to see a lot of these athletes in the tumbling round a few events later. A few small steps, but again, nothing major. We're going to check it out again. Great straddle jumps, nice height. Like I mentioned before, a few of the girls had their chest down a little bit on the landing. I'd like to see them get it up, get their arms up quicker, but great synchronization throughout.
Again, after this first event of compulsories, one would expect the Oregon Ducks to be in the lead because it is their stronger event. And ready for their 4th heat, leading the Ducks back onto the floor, Shelby Armstrong, another senior celebrating her final season here in Eugene.
Again, watch the feet. Very, very slight movements. Oregon's hoping not to see any of those movements, but the deductions will come from the feet and from the chest being too low on the landings. Chest, great, doing a great job keeping their chest up on the landing, but not quite as synchronized as the Baylor team. A few of the girls just have so much more power than the rest of the team.
Natalie James, Jordan Fox, Taylor Galvin, Nicole Siebold, some of the other tumblers on the floor to wrap up heat number 4 for the Oregon Ducks.
I saw a few slight hops at the end there, but again, I think that they got a lot more height in their tumbling than the Baylor team, and they were a little bit more dynamic. Watch this, not quite as synchronized on the landing, but see when their chests are up, that's less of a deduction for that. Watch the feet. ever so slightly. They moved. But again, great height.
Oregon is coming off a 3-win week, sweeping a tri-meet hosted by Gannon University, hoping to bring some of that momentum home against top-ranked Baylor. The compulsory scores, plus acro next from Eugene. In costume for our debut acro and tumbling telecast, some of these students here at Oregon reacting to the early scores being announced between #1 Baylor and #2 Oregon. Here they are for the 4 heats, acro, pyramid, toss, and tumbling, for a total compulsory score, with Oregon taking an early lead, 38.85 against 38.4 for Baylor.
Pretty close to start off this competition. Again, it comes from the synchronization of the skills and those small steps on the landing. There wasn't much, there was not that much movement from any of the body parts really, but they do add up.
So Oregon above their season average, but below their all-time best. And as we set the stage for acro, we asked the student athletes again for a preview.
Each team must perform 5 elements, and start values are dependent upon the difficulty of elements each team chooses to attempt.
The second event is the acro event.
There's 5, 6, and 7 element. What you want to look for is
No steps from the bases,
no movement from the tops,
and the highest difficulty with the best execution.
And so this is our first chance to introduce starting values, Samantha, and it's 10 for both programs, all 3 heats here in acro.
The officials are looking for the tops to hold their positions for at least 3 seconds. No movement.
Bailey Olier, Shayla Moore, Sydney Evans, and Kelsey Ortiz on the floor for acro for the Baylor Bears.
That was not quite 3 seconds. She couldn't get her balance on top. Her positions were a little bit over the top, forcing her to come right off sooner than she wanted. That will be a deduction. The 3 seconds starts when she gets in position, not when she starts moving. You see her kind of saying, oh well, walking off, you know, good positions, but she knows that she could do that a little bit better, holding that position for at least 3 seconds.
Head coach Felicia Mulkey there, a former Oregon coach, led this program to great success, has turned it over to Chelsea Shaw. Traditionally, acro has been a real strength for Oregon, so with their first of 3 heats, a 5-skill selection, here are the Ducks.
And there are 3 officials, 1 head official, making sure that the team does everything that they declared in their start value file. 1 judge to watch the bases and 1 judge for the top.
Natalie James, the junior top, working with Haley Gerlich and Taylor Keating.
These bases have to be extremely strong to hold her securely up there so she can stay tight as well. They are pumped up from that heat. It's an amazing start for Oregon. Oregon's start value doesn't quite match that of Baylor later on in the competition, so they're going to want to try and get as much of a lead now as they possibly can.
Each heat has a 45-second time limit here in Acro and may score up to that perfect 10. So we're going for a combined score up to 30 points. Baylor has the better season average of the two programs at 28.97, but Oregon has the top score on the season at 29.75.
Again, the competition is going to be close until we get to the more creative events that we're going to see later on in the competition.
Sam, this reminds me to ask you about performance value, which is so critical in your sport of gymnastics. But here in the NCATA championship competition, they really want to focus purely on execution.
Yeah, so the performance value means nothing here. Absolutely nothing. If they smile, if they sell it, obviously they want to put on a good show. But in terms of the officials, it will not affect their score at all.
6 skills now in this heat of acro. Again, 3 seconds each the hold.
The top there is number 3, Kira Nolan. Baylor's strongest tumbler.
Her base, Gigi Mendoza. Now Jenna Fisher, a sophomore.
This is Acro Heat 2, so they have to do 6 elements as opposed to Heat 1, which was only required 5 elements.
We talked a little bit about what the judges are looking for off the top. They're monitoring the bases as well for any extra steps, any improper catches, too high or too low.
You see the top holding on to the base when they land. I asked the coaches, is that okay? Is there deduction if they touch the bases when they land to help secure them? The answer was no. As long as they declare it in their start value file, it's allowed.
And that SV file, as it's known, lists the competitors and the skills they're going to attempt, and it's due to the judges 24 hours before the competition, cannot be changed unless there's a verified injury.
This is a strategic sport, and that is just adding to the strategy, because what if one of the girls has a bad warm-up? You cannot pull them. You have to leave them in and go with your original plan. Unless there's an injury, that is, and unfortunately, Oregon suffered a hand fracture just last night at practice.
There's Krista Phillips, a junior, who's involved in numerous events, so that is a big loss.
Huge change for Oregon, not something that they needed going into this competition against Baylor.
Good heat for Alexis Cross, one of 3 sophomores, along with senior Sydney Walton in the 6 element heat number 2 of acro.
Strong catch from the base. Shoulders were upright when she landed. There should be no deductions there.
Shayla Moore there in the foreground, loves it.
It's great to see the teammates on the side supporting them, cheering them on while they're going. But it has to be a little bit nerve-wracking to watch the opposing team standing there looking at you while you're competing.
Third and final heat involves 7 acro skills. Ashley Eckelberger is a freshman and a top.
See a little bent legs in the twist, a little closed hip in the layout position. Very strong. Great body positions from the top. They're happy with that one. Baylor is starting to pick up steam here in the competition. No movement from the bases there. See leg separation a little bit in the air. But these positions are great.
And finally, an E3 of the acro event with a start value of 10.0. From the
Baylor waiting anxiously for their scores on these heats.
Shelby Armstrong, Nicole Seaman.
Shelby Armstrong, a senior, one of 3 Ducks back on the floor for their Southern Element of acro.
Didn't quite get the extension out of that back tuck.
Shelby is a Texas native, and her background is in competitive cheerleading.
I would have liked to see the hips open a little bit more in the handstand position. It's crazy, the bases are a little bit shaky in the arms, but the top is not moving at all. It really speaks to their strength, their preparation. Both teams do a lot of training in the workroom, in the weight room, excuse me, to get the amount of strength that they need to hold each other in the air like this.
Cole Siebold and Blair Wilson, the senior and junior bases respectively.
Held for the proper 3 seconds.
And there's the dynamic you mentioned. Your team supporting and cheering on one side, and across the floor, your opponents judging with each skill.
It's great to see that, and it's crazy coming from a gymnastics perspective. Of course, we watched and cheered for our teammates, but you know, the other team never watched us like this.
Acro scores and our next event, Pyramid, after this. Here are the scores for all 3 heats of acro as they're being revealed to the student athletes and the crowd here at Matthew Knight Arena. And as you can see, the Ducks took 2 out of 3 and the total, so they have won both events to this point, and they have the meet lead. 68.2 to 67.3, and Samantha, if the Ducks are to knock off the Bears, those first 2 events were virtual must-wins.
They were. They need every 10th they can get. But it's interesting to see Baylor doesn't really seem to tarnish their mood, tarnish their attitude. They look like they're still even. They know they're still in it, and they're here to fight.
Pyramid coming up. This is another strength for Oregon. Let's send it back to the Ducks.
On top of one. Go Ducks. The third event is the pyramid event.
There are 3 heats, and each heat has a different requirement.
The highest start value you can get is a 10.0.
And you know it's a pyramid when you see 1
On top of one.
on top of 1.
Go Ducks.
Oh, well said, and we're going to see more student athletes on the floor in this event as well, because teams may use up to 24 of them heat by heat.
And there is a time constraint on this event. 30 seconds are allowed for each heat.
Starting values of 10 for both teams for all 3 heats. So again, we're even in terms of starting value to this point in the meet.
The tricky part about the 30-second time limit is that they still do have to hold their positions for at least 3 seconds, which leaves little room for error. So far, it's looking as clean as you can possibly do the pyramid.
Saw one of Baylor's 2 NCATA All-Americans on their roster. They have Shayla Moore and Kiara Nolan as well. Shayla Moore was part of that pyramid heat 1 along with Shayla Kelly, Kelsey Ortiz, Molly Gibbons, and others.
And her positions are just perfect. She is so tight, so clean in the air, which is exactly what the officials are looking for. Most of the time when audience watches this, your eye goes to the top, but really a lot of the deductions come from the bases. Watch the feet. We want to see no movement, and they have to stay within one of the quadrants of the floor.
Oh. You hear the gas from the crowd there. A slight slip up from the Ducks. It'll cost them. We'll see how much.
That is not good. We're going to watch the replay here, see what went wrong. Looks like she never really got her balance. There was movement starting from the base, and it just worked its way all the way up to the top. They're going to be pretty disappointed from that heat.
Each team designing and completing their own unique pyramid sequence of varying difficulty, although as we've documented, they're all going to attempt starting values of 10. The Bears, I think, know they have an opportunity to take their first lead of this meet with this pyramid event.
Both teams having a team pep rally, pep talk, all together in the center. Baylor's looking a little bit like, let's keep the momentum going. And you know what? The Ducks are probably saying, we got to move on. We can't go back and change that heat. We need to look forward and do our best for the rest of the heats on.
Hey, any nerves from the Bears being down through 2 events?
Not at all. You think they've done this before? Head coach Felicia Mulkey likes to keep her team light, as you can see, having lots of fun. She thinks they perform the best when they're just enjoying it, enjoying the sport, and looks like they're doing a great job of that tonight.
And she definitely wanted us to point out that her Baylor acrobatics and tumbling team excels on the mat, but also in the classroom. 25 Bears made the Big 12 Commissioner's Honors in the fall of 15. It's a 3.0 GPA or better.
Another fun fact about Felicia Mulkey is she actually started the sport. She came up with the sport on a plane and writing down ideas on a napkin. And look what it has evolved to. It's great, and it's a sport that's going to keep growing, continue evolving, and so it's fun for JB and I to even be a part of this broadcast.
Allie Williams, a junior, and Sydney Evans, a senior, combining atop that Pyramid 2.
Strong all the way from the bases, the middle, and the top. Slow on the way down, but extremely clean throughout.
If Baylor can put another solid heat together on the release heat, they'd be in position for a pyramid upset. This is a true strength for Oregon. The Ducks have both a higher season average and a higher best score on the year than do the Bears.
Oregon's demeanor is a little bit more serious, a little bit more tense, it looks like. Really trying to regain their strength, like you mentioned. Top having a little bent arms in the hold, but no movement from the bases.
So that was the twist. Heat 2 of Pyramid.
Catch was upright, no deductions there. Going back to talk about Baylor's head coach, Felicia Mulkey. She actually started the sport and started the program at the University of Oregon, which is amazing. And she recruited the current head coach and one of the assistant coaches. And 2 of her current assistants at Baylor were on the same inaugural U of A team. So there's a lot of Ducks in this arena right now.
Including assistant Emily Mikey back in Eugene. Well, she is undefeated as the Bears head coach. All-time record of 17-0, a perfect 3-0 in meets against the Ducks, who I know would like to change that because of how familiar they are with her and her program. Let's focus on the base here, Sam.
Extremely strong there in that bridge position. The middle athlete has to be super strong, not only with her arms holding the top, but with her legs, making sure that she's not moving the bottom around.
Here's a closer look at Felicia Mulkey. She wanted us to acknowledge, as you said off the top of the program, that acro and tumbling is creating wonderful opportunities for women athletically on college campuses across the country.
It is, and I had a chance to speak with a few of her former athletes, and they could not speak more highly of the way she coaches her girls, not only making them strong in the sport, but making them strong in life in general, making them strong, independent, empowered women. And I think that really speaks to her character and the way that she is mentoring these young female athletes.
All right, Heat 3 of Pyramid. The Ducks need a big answer.
Another unique bridge bottom position. Good position on the way down. Both unique pyramids from both teams, but they both started at a 10.0, even though they were different pyramids.
Haley Gerlich holding up the whole formation.
Wow. Very flexible shoulders right there. You see her kind of cringing. I know they practice this a lot, but that still has to hurt a little bit. All of those people standing on you. Great look at the fans that came out to support the Ducks on the senior night.
They compete routinely in front of thousands here at Matthew Knight Arena. We've talked about the Baylor head coach, Felicia Mulkey. Next up, scores from the Pyramid and a conversation with Ducks head coach, Chelsea Shaw. Welcome back to Matthew Knight Arena in Eugene with Samantha Peshek, a member of the 2008 Olympic team. I'm JB Long. The scores are in for Pyramid event number 3. We have our first perfect 10. It belongs to the Oregon Ducks in heat number 3. But Baylor gets its first event win, 29.7 to claim Pyramid. So with that, let's update our meet total. You can see that Oregon won compulsory and acro, Baylor rallying in Pyramid to take a 97-96 lead. Here at halftime, Matthew Knight Arena, with a great crowd in attendance for our debut telecast on Pac-12 Network of acro and tumbling. And let's welcome in Chelsea Shaw, the head coach of the Oregon Ducks. You just saw that perfect 10 go up, but you also just saw Baylor take its first event win. Your thoughts on the first portion of this meet?
You know, the girls came out really strong, and they're doing a great job. They're keeping the energy up. It's been a very difficult week, losing a few athletes to injuries, so I'm just proud of them for rallying. That first Pyramid heat obviously is going to hurt us. Top couldn't hear the counts for the dismount, and that's a big point deduction. So we're just going to come back second half and try to do the best we can.
You guys struggled again, like you said, in heat 1, but you came back with a perfect 10. What did you say to the girls before they went out for heat 3?
We just told them that the meet's not over, and it's not over until it's over, so we got to keep accumulating points throughout the whole meet, and they got to come out swinging. And we told the girls that it's going to be a 2-hour fight this whole meet, and we wanted them to just keep fighting.
Looks like you guys have already been fighting so far. It's going to be a great competition.
Now, one of the questions I know we wanted to talk about is the difference between bases and tops, and how you recruit them and how you train them to perform week in and week out.
You know, we train our kids in all positions. So we may recruit them as a base or as a top, but when they get there, we try them in every single position. And as you can see throughout the meet, you'll see we need kids to be very versatile. And if they're going to make the top 28 out of 40 or plus girls on our roster, then they got to be able to do multiple things.
And in terms of young women who would like to be involved in this sport, maybe be recruited, you say tumbling is the requisite skill. The rest can be taught.
Absolutely, yeah. If they can come in with the tumbling and the technique and that's there, then the rest is easy to teach. And it's a lot of fun bringing these kids in and teaching them what they need to know.
And what type of girls do you look for when you recruit? There's a lot of girls from different backgrounds, but there are no acro and tumbling programs yet. It is coming. There's going to be bigger in the future, but how do you get these girls?
We find these girls from all over, really competitive gymnastics, artistic gymnastics, acrobatics, power tumbling, a lot of competitive cheer. Anybody with those skill sets, we can kind of merge into the format that we need here for acrobatics and tumbling. So any kids out there, keep it up in any avenue of gymnastics, and you'll be a good fit for our sport.
And what's your favorite part about acrobatics and tumbling?
I love the tumbling. I was a gymnastics background, so I love the tumbling. That's the funnest part for me, but I love it all. Yeah.
Awesome.
Still a couple events upcoming as we preview the second half of this event against Baylor, especially the team component. Can you talk about the unique theme of one and how it might rally the Ducks here before the night is through?
Yeah, we chose to do something a little bit different, a little bit outside the box this year with our team event. So we have a Michael Jackson theme. Our whole team motto this year was one, and being united and being cohesive. And Michael Jackson possesses a lot of characteristics that our team does, in that of being innovative and being outside the box and never taking no for an answer, and being pioneers of the sport. So we thought it was a perfect fit. The kids have a lot of fun doing it, and the fans have a lot of fun watching it. So hopefully it's a good finale for everybody.
I got one more question for you. You already see more than 1,000 fans at your meets. Where do you see the sport in 5 years?
I think it's just going to keep growing. The fan base loves it. It's very exciting. It's head-to-head. It's fast-paced. It's competitive. Everybody loves it, at least here in Eugene, Oregon. So I only see it growing in the years to come.
Great.
We feel for Krista Phillips. I know that was a big loss to you midweek as you prepared for this huge meet against Baylor. Send her our best and good luck in the remaining events here tonight against the Bears.
Thank you very much.
All right, second-year head coach Chelsea Shaw of the Oregon Ducks. Halftime festivities ongoing here at Matthew Knight Arena in Eugene. We'll send it to Mike Yam in San Francisco after this.
Hi, I'm Mike Emmons at our San Francisco studios. Hope you are enjoying our very first acrobatics and tumbling event here on the Pac-12 network. Now, if you think it's hard, what you've been watching, imagine doing it in the water. Our Ashley Adamson found out how hard that actually can be. She caught up with one of the championship teams on the farm.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lowe, head coach at Stanford University. Welcome to Synchronized Swimming.
The art of synchronized swimming with the Stanford Cardinal and Ashley Adamson.
This might be the worst idea I've ever had.
Synchronized Swimming 101.
I would describe synchronized swimming as kind of ballet, gymnastics in the water.
You have to be choreographed and synchronized to the music. Combine so many different skills all in one very hard 4-minute routine.
You could dive in.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, team!
The pool.
Normal pool would be about 25 to 30 meters long and between 20 and 25 meters wide.
Anywhere from like 8 feet to 10 feet to deeper. We don't touch the bottom.
I haven't done anything yet, and I'm exhausted.
The swimwear.
So in practice we wear just training suits, caps, goggles, nose clips, and then when we compete we wear special competition suits that are all handmade.
They're very bright usually and a little bit sparkly to kind of catch your eye.
We work with, the athletes to figure out kind of what they want to portray, the story that they want to tell.
The training.
We do some land conditioning as well as a lot of stretching because we need our flexibility.
So this is a pretty basic skill, okay? But it's just you're gonna lay out and then cut up a leg. This is super. This is really nice.
A lot of repetition work, like going over the same part over and over to like fine tune the little details, make it as perfect as possible.
I'm not ready. That was perfect, you guys.
You want it to be in sync, very close together. We want to swim as tight as possible.
Do you guys do everything at the same time always?
Yeah.
No.
It's dynamic and it is strong and it is really hard.
We're not just really floating in the water and splashing around.
Like our goal is to, when we come out of the water, to make it look effortless.
Oh boy. Oh, I'm doing it! I'm doing it! 3, 2, 1, That's gonna do it for us here at Stanford. Thanks for joining us for this synchronized swimming tutorial.
I thought this was my tutorial.
Oh, right. Thank you, Neil, for giving us this synchronized swimming tutorial.
It's my pleasure, Ashley. The end.
Some great stuff there from Ashley, although no offense to her, she probably doesn't want to quit her day job, which is a host here at the Pac-12 Network and handling business Monday nights on Sports Report. In fact, she's actually pulling a little double duty this week. Sunday night about 9 p.m. Pacific, you don't want to miss. We got 2 teams in the Final Four. First time ever that has happened for the Pac-12 Conference. We'll get a closer look with Ashley in the seat as we'll get some reports from Indianapolis, focus on Oregon State, not to mention UW. We'll see how they do on Sunday night. And of course, a little bit more coverage on Monday on Sports Report. You do not want to miss it. And I don't just say that because I'm one of the hosts of the show, although Guy Haberman will be filling in for me on Monday. Still plenty more acrobatics and tumbling still to come here on the Pac-12 Network. Enjoy it.
The college sport of acro and tumbling began competition in the spring of 2011. Here in 2016, our first live broadcast on the Pac-12 network, and it features the two best in the sport. Baylor has a 97-96 lead over Oregon. 3 events down, 3 more to go. We'll see if the Ducks can rally to defeat Baylor for the first time this year. Earlier tonight, a special group of Oregon seniors who have helped build not just this program, but the sport, were honored here at Matthew Knight Arena, including Nicole Siebold, a 4-year member of the Ducks team, Shelby Armstrong, Haley Gerlich, Sydney Walton, and Alexis McAllister. What wonderful seasons they've given to both Felicia Mulkey and also Chelsea Shaw.
Was born in Richland, Washington, and graduated with
Oregon has one more competition left, but it's on the road. It's at Azusa Pacific, and it's on Monday before they head to Waco, Texas, April 16th for the NCATA Championships. And you see that it's an event they're more than familiar with. They have owned the crown all the way up until 2015 when Baylor took it for the first time.
4 consecutive national championship titles. Those are some good-looking rings, I'd say.
We're fortunate to have Lauren, a former member of this acro and tumbling team here in Eugene, on our staff, Pac-12 Network, on our crew today in Eugene.
We were oohing and eyeing over the
She shared some
rings.
of her hardware, didn't she?
Definitely.
Now, this is an innovative, cutting-edge sport, and there's that same vibe to this program and to this school. I mean, Oregon has long been on the cutting edge of athletics, whether it be the design, uniforms, performance, the way they treat and develop their student athletes. And you can see the Ducks are warming up, preparing for the final 3 events.
Powerhouse athletic program in every sport that they do. We saw, there's Lauren.
Is she wearing some of that hardware? Lauren, if so, if you can hear us, flash that bling. Come on, Lauren. There you go. Oh, she put it away for safekeeping.
Put it away. She doesn't want anyone snatching those. I was thinking about going over there and asking to borrow them and not give them back, but...
What you didn't see is one of those rings had a flat dent in it because she went to the national championships and was pounding the floor so hard, supporting her Ducks, that it's now a nice memory, a nice token of that championship season.
During halftime, the girls get a chance to re-warm up, most notably for the second half of the competition. We're going to see a little bit more difficulty, a little bit more creativity from the teams.
All right, here's a look at Toss, a high-flying event brought to you by the Ducks.
Up next is a toss event. There are 3 heats, 1 synchronized and 2 solo tosses.
The judges will be looking for height, technique, and tight catches with no steps.
Go Ducks!
Okay, for the first time, we see a difference in starting value. The 2-element synchronized and open. We see some 9.9s on the schedule for Oregon, while Baylor will look to extend its lead with 10s.
Twist was all the way around, very tight catch at the end.
Historically, Baylor has struggled a bit with this toss event, but it appears they've turned the corner in 2016. They're averaging 29.09 out of 30.
More things that the judges will be looking for is insufficient height of the skill from the tops, and overflip or underflip on the landing, and definitely clean form in the air. That means legs crossed, leg separation. And again, don't forget about the bases. There are a lot of deductions that can be taken from the bases. There's 4 in comparison to the 1 top, obviously.
And the top is Cassie Jackson. Again, she's a freshman. And her head coach, Chelsea Shaw, said this recruiting class was so talented, so prepared that many of them are already in the starting rotation.
Like you mentioned, she said that they were competing more freshmen than they ever have, and it speaks to their recruiting class and just how quickly they adapted to this sport. We see her hips closing a little bit at the end. I did not love that pike position when they caught her, when the bases caught her at the bottom, but nice height. And she seems to be happy with that one.
Both Baylor and Oregon will attempt a 9.9 starting value in the synchronized heat of the toss.
There are 10 athletes and 1 possible counter. You see the girl in the middle. Group on the left was a little bit quicker than the group on the right. Both had very similar heights, but again, not as synchronized as they can be. Little leg separation on the end from the group on the right.
So again, 9.9 the start value for the Oregon Ducks as they take the floor. They will also be utilizing 10 student athletes. That counter that you mentioned is optional, and you see the Ducks will choose not to use her.
Another fact about the toss event is that you can repeat the same toss in 2 of the heats, but not all 3. So there does need to be variety.
Joining Cassie Jackson, who we mentioned, Mackenzie Reagan, a junior atop the other.
They were a little bit more synchronized on the catch in comparison to the Baylor team, but not so much in the twist. Great job from the bases, catching very tight, no movement on the feet. The base official will have little to judge on that one.
Both these programs have put up toss scores as high as 29.4 this season. Final heats, starting value of 10 for both the Bears and the Ducks.
And going back to 5 athletes in this heat. Again, we'll see Shayla Kelly on top. Kick double. A little pike before the bases caught her, but very clean in the air.
In case you're just joining us, we highlight Shayla because she's the daughter of Olympic gymnast Mary Lou Retton.
She was kind of a big deal, I guess I would say.
Neck full of medals at the 84 games, including the gold and the all-around first American to do it.
Dad was a football player, like you mentioned, so I guess she has some athletics in her genes, just a little bit.
Alexis Cross, Nicole Siebold, Taylor Galvin, Jalen Kirkland, Sydney Walton, and Kaylee Nicholas, the sophomore, for heat number 3.
Great height in the kick double. Same skill that Baylor just competed. A little bit more height and a little bit more kick at the beginning. They should receive a higher score.
Samantha, I know the smiles and the reactions are not scored by the judges like they might be in gymnastics.
Right.
But they are telling about how these student athletes, both on the floor and then their teammates watching, felt about the score they think they deserve.
Definitely. Well, Oregon knows, especially on this event, because they don't start from a perfect score. They need to be even more perfect with their execution, with the deductions. They can't afford as many deductions as the Baylor team.
And trying to make up a full point margin in the second half of our acro and tumbling debut on the Pac-12 Network. Scores from 3 heats of toss, and then we look ahead to the dynamic event of tumbling coming up next from Matthew Knight Arena in Eugene. No sense in me talking about the Hall of Famer when I have an Olympic medalist at my side. Samantha Pesek, how about what this woman meant to the sport of gymnastics?
She was always an idol of mine, and after meeting her and seeing how great and inspiring she was, not just as a gymnast but as a person, it was great. It's like all your dreams from your idol coming true, and to see her daughters still participating in the sport. One of her other daughters is a gymnast at LSU. It's really great to see her continuing the legacy with her children.
All right, let's check out the 3 heats of toss. Baylor won the first, Oregon took the second, and the third. So even at 29.35, they started with the same values, and they come out with the same score. But again, Oregon needs to make up a full point across now the final 2 events. Next up, tumbling. You're going to like this. Let's check in once again with the Ducks student athletes.
Up next is the tumbling event, and there are 6 heats.
3 synchronized, a duo, trio, and quad, and 3 solo.
Be on the lookout for technique, synchronization, and stick landings.
Let's get ready to tumble!
We certainly are. Oregon is having a career year in this category, but so too is Baylor. They average 56.38, and they list all 10s in their starting values.
Strong finish from Baylor. Very synchronized throughout. We see them take a step back on the landing, and normally that would be a deduction, but they declared that they were going to take a step back. And that means that both girls have to take a step back for there not to be a deduction.
Kaylee Adams is 7, Lauren Sturm, a sophomore, is 20, and they love their duo pass.
Very strong tumblers from the Baylor team. And head coach Felicia Mulkey said that was definitely an improvement from last year. You know, even though they are the reigning national championships, she is most impressed with their improvement in their strength, and most specifically in their tumbling.
Duo team, Taylor Galvin and Caroline Matos, a freshman for the Ducks.
See them wearing gloves. This is a preference. It's not mandatory. It helps the traction so they don't slip on the floor.
Now, speaking of the floor, as they go tumbling across it, what do we know about the competition mats in acro and tumbling?
It is bonded foam mats. That's it. There are no springs, nothing. They got the springs in their legs, and that's it. Very synchronized on the landing. Not as synchronized throughout the pass, I would say, but they picked it up to have a strong finish.
So this sheer power event, 1 heat down, 5 to go. Triple will be next.
And they're starting off the floor, but the actual mats are 54 by 42 feet, just so you get a sense of how big the competition floor is. It's divided into 9 segments.
And Shayla Moore there at 5, a bit of a stumble. Didn't quite stick the landing.
Wasn't as synchronized and wasn't as high as I saw in the warm-up. Little legs apart from number 5. And the officials were talking to me earlier, and they wanted me to emphasize how important the step is. Yes, you can do a step with no deductions if you declare it. However, there will be a deduction if they don't do a step that is controlled. Emphasis on the control. The girl in the middle, number 5, was not as controlled as the other 2 competitors.
And to that point, it's so great to have Janelle Cook, the director of the NCATA, with us in attendance. This is a really big deal for this sport of acro and tumbling to have the top 2 teams in the nation televised from Eugene. Sydney Walton, Shelby Armstrong, and Blair Wilson, the Oregon trio, with a starting value of 9.8.
A little bit easier than the Baylor team. Let's see if they can be even more clean on their landings. Number 36, the girl in the middle, had a 2 feet step. Not quite what they wanted to see. Looks as though they put their strongest tumblers, both teams, on the ends, hoping the officials won't necessarily see the stumbles from the girl in the middle. Landing a little bit low. Both teams like to see a little bit stronger finishes in terms of movement. You know, again, I think it's pretty unique that Oregon's team requires them all to come in with a tumbling background. Baylor does not feel the same way, but head coach Chelsea Shaw spoke to us about how important it is for them to have that tumbling background, and then the rest she can teach.
Gibbons, Cowan, Eckelberger, and Grace Seffa, a senior, the quad in tumbling for the Baylor Bears. Again, a 10 starting value.
This is looking very synchronized. Oh. It was looking so great throughout. Number 33, it looked like she had so much power that she landed half on and half on the mat. I think it shocked her. We're gonna take a second look. Great technique throughout. I really like how the Baylor's tumbling is precise and sharp. Other than that landing, oh, she just couldn't quite pick her foot up, it looked like.
So the Ducks had to slip up in one of the pyramid heats. Maybe this is the window of opportunity they need to make up ground in the penultimate events here, tumbling.
Definitely. A fall is 5/10. It's really uncharacteristic of the Baylor team, and you saw it in the video. She looked pretty shocked.
But in Heat 3, quad, Oregon only lists a 9.2 starting value, so they'll have to be super sharp. They just announced a 9.6 starting value, so that's a bit higher than what I had marked and maybe gives Oregon a boost. Here comes their quad.
They want to take this chance, try to make up ground. Way better on the landings. They all took one step. Few of the girls were not as controlled, but not very many deductions in that pass. Great heat for Oregon. Got synchronized right there. Lots of power, little leg separation, and a little bit out of control from the middle. But other than that, it was definitely a strong heat for Oregon, which is exactly what they're looking for right now.
So midway through the 6 heats, duo, triple, and quad in the books. The aerial pass, the 6-element pass, and the open pass still to come.
Starting off the aerial solo pass.
We mentioned in our open that these are Division I scholarship athletes. So a lot of girls that you see out here are getting some help with school. They are treated like every other student athlete. Number 11 going for Baylor.
Amanda Grace Seffa, she's a senior, and she loves it.
Whip to an Arabian, opens up nicely, and strong finish. Adding a little flair on the end of that.
So
although that is not getting judged, let me remind you.
These final 3 passes, as she hinted at, will all be individual passes. So with a chance to answer, Grace Seffa, Sydney Walton.
The only heats in the entire competition to be an individual. The rest are groups.
And on her senior night, here she comes.
Whip, whip, whip. Back handspring, back handspring. 1.5, a little shy on the 1.5, but very clean position in the whips. Lots of power throughout. The judges are also looking for the speed. They want to maintain the speed or increase speed the more elements that the girl is doing. The longer the back handspring, the longer the whips are, the more power she's going to generate for that 1.5 twist at the end. Great job keeping her chest up at the end and staying as control as possible.
Starting off the 6-element solo pass of the tumbling event with a start value of 10.0 from Baylor University. Here is Kiara Nolan.
Kiara Nolan of Baylor, a junior, has the honor. Ample Y. But Oregon really likes what they get from their 6-element pass. Taylor Galvin as well, who has really come into her own as a sophomore from Foothill Ranch. Baylor and Oregon even on the duo pass. The Bears take the triple pass 9.3 to 9.1. On the quad, the Ducks get a... we just wanted to also dedicate this to Lauren Jones and her wonderful family and their memory. She's still such a tremendous part of this acro and tumbling program. The Baylor Bears, last to take the floor, 24 Ducks for the team events.
They're getting pumped up. The crowd has signs.